Good morning and welcome to our National Quality Milk Virtual Farm Walk. I'm Tom O'Dwyer, and on behalf of Teagasc and our event partners, the National Dairy Council, Ornua and Glanbia Ireland, I'm delighted to introduce this event. Kieran and Ann Hearne are the 2019 national winners of the National Dairy Council Kerrygold Quality Milk Awards. We are broadcasting live this morning from their farm at Ballinacurra, Carrick-on-Suir, County Waterford, in the foothills of the Cumra Mountains. We have a packed programme lined up for you over the next hour, including interviews with the host farmer Kieran Hearne, his Teagasc Adviser Seamus Kearney, and his Glanbia Ireland Quality Milk Manager Brendan Walsh. The broadcast will be facilitated by my Teagasc colleague David Gleeson. And over the next hour, we'll cover a range of topics, including producing quality milk, selective dry cow therapy, grassland management, herd breeding, biodiversity, and the environment. We really look forward to engaging with you over the next hour. And to start with, we have a short video which gives an overview of the Hearne farm and the Hearne family. And after that, we'll head directly to studio and my colleague, David Gleeson.
The relationship between the farmer and animal is everything, really. If you don't love your animals and if you don't look after your land, you won't do well as a farmer. This farm, a big emphasis on animal comfort. Because if you have a happy animal, you have a happy farmer. I feel very connected to the land. It's just in my blood to be a farmer and to be part of the farm. Very proud of living in this area and being a farmer. For me, the most important lesson I've learned about farming is the importance of the people around you. No one will achieve anything on their own. In life, it's the people around you that make you. It's teamwork that gets you to where you are. You can't get much better than that.
Good morning and welcome to the farm of Kieran and Ann Hearne here in County Waterford, the winner of the All-Ireland Milk Quality Awards, NDC Kerrygold Milk Quality Awards for 2019. And we're coming here live from the studio, which is the calving shed. And in my company, I've Kieran and I've Dr. Seamus Kearney, Milk Advisor, Dairy Advisor with Teagasc, and Brendan Walsh from Glanbia. So this competition, I suppose, it's a fantastic opportunity to promote all that is good about dairy farming in Ireland. The competition, I suppose, as a judge, and I have the privilege of being a judge for the last number of years, the standard has improved year on year. But Kieran this year was the standout winner. I mean, his milk quality figures are excellent, but apart from that, to be a winner, you must have the experience must be enjoyable. Animal welfare must be considered. The environment must be considered, and all these key things. Kieran has managed to tick all the boxes. So the most important thing that I suppose one of the reasons we really chose this farm is the sustainability aspect of it. You could take this farm and adopt it in other farms. All the different tasks and jobs he's doing could be used elsewhere. So this is I must congratulate him and hope that over the next hour I'll be having discussions with Kieran and we'll find out what makes this farm tick and what's his management strategies. So before that, I'd like to introduce a video which is of the three judges, and that would be Patrick Wall, Jack Kennedy and myself, which kind of outlines, I suppose, our view on the competition.
The most important thing now with dairy farming is that we engage with the final consumer and address consumer concerns. The consumers are increasingly concerned about food safety, animal welfare, health and nutrition, and the environmental impact of modern farming, modern dairy farming. And you can see now with the EU Green Deal, the green agenda is to the fore in the European Union, and it will influence the next round of the CAP. And you can see the green influence in the Irish government. So farmers have to be cognizant of this and address the issues, because we can't ignore consumer concerns. And basically, addressing some of these issues is not incompatible with being a good farmer. And this farm here demonstrates how you can have hygienic practices, good animal welfare standards. We should have the mantra that cow in Ireland can have the best lifetime experience than anywhere else in the world. And you can see how contented the cows are here.
We started judging this competition over 10 years ago. I mean, the milk quality was perceived as something that was only possible on those herds that had less than 50 cows, that had 2 full-time operators in the milking pit, and maybe only had 6 units. I mean, now that the fact that the average herd size has grown from 50 to maybe something closer to 100 cows today, I mean, this competition has had to grow in line with that, and grow in terms of the professionalism and the growth in the sector. I suppose over time and over the last 10 years, while this competition has been around, we have seen the consumer change as well to wanting to know more about the product and where it has come from. That holistic picture of where their food that they're purchased, where it has come from, and what standards it was, that was produced under. And at the same time, I suppose, because Ireland is exporting a lot of product out of Ireland, I mean, the customer that's buying our product has demanded higher standards and higher requirements. So I suppose we have tried to evolve the competition into more than just quality milk over the last 10 years. And now, we know that business, it needs to be financially sustainable. It needs to be environmentally sustainable. It needs to operate under high welfare standards. And like, they are just some of the aspects that have changed. And more importantly, I mean, it needs to be labor efficient. It needs to be sustainable from a dairy farming business as it operates here in Ireland.
This is a fantastic competition where the best of dairying in Ireland is promoted. This competition has evolved over the years. Everybody is producing top-class milk now from the point of view bacterial counts and somatic cell count. But now we're looking at things more like sustainability, and that can be measured in a number of different ways. It could be to do with labor efficiency. It could be to do with how you manage your energy usage on the farm, your breeding policy, your treatment of the environment. All those factors, slurry management, are all taken into consideration when we as judges are making a decision about picking an all-round winner. From the consumer point of view, it's also important. The consumer is interested to know how milk is produced and our welfare standards being met, and in terms of food safety. We take all those things into consideration when we're marketing for that. Kieran, how are you? Listen, thank you first of all for hosting the event. It's fantastic that we could still have be able to share your knowledge to the general public, because we have a big audience that have logged in. And I just must mention that if there's any questions for Kieran or for any of the panel viewers, should obviously sign in. Before we get into the development of the farm, which is tremendous over the years, will you talk a little bit about the family and introduce your family to us, and a bit maybe the role they're playing and the setup?
Okay, first I'd like to welcome everyone to the Hearne family farm. The Hearne family is made up of myself and my wife Anne, and we have 4 children: Lawrence, Fiona, Connor and Stephen, and my mother Ellen lives on the farm as well. And we're a family farm, and they're all hands-on. We all help out. They all help out throughout different parts of the year, especially in the springtime when calves are being born.
Right, so have you put 4 potential farmers in this now, or is there anybody standing out at this stage?
Well, so they're all interested in the farm, and they like to be involved in what's going on. And so that's the most important thing.
You took over the farm back in 1993. So there's been huge developments and huge changes since then. Could you just talk us through the kind of changes that happened and when they happened?
Okay. Well, I was always interested in farming from a very young age. And when I did my leaving cert, finished my leaving cert, I went to Kildalton College, and I stayed at home on the farm then. And I had a part-time job, milk recording, and I had set up a sheep flock of my own. Then in 1992, my father sadly passed away, and in 1993, my mother handed the farm over to me. She availed of the early retirement scheme. So I mean, I was young and enthusiastic, and I set a plan in place to develop the farm. So over that decade, then in the 1990s, we would have bought more land, and I put in roadways and reseeded the farm, and we built the first part of the shed we're in there now in at the moment. And of course I got married to Anne, and we built our family home. But it was also in the 90s that really I suppose it put in place the way I farmed going forward, because I've been doing profit monitor since 1996, and I could see that dairying was the most profitable enterprise on the farm. Even making a small saving in the cost of production, we say on the cow end of things was nearly the equivalent to the profit of the cattle. So even though we had a small quota, I decided to focus on the quota I had, and we decided to get as much grass into the cows, produce as cheaply as possible, and to breed a cow that would suit that system. So we tried to breed a cow that was high in, produced high milk solids, and was a very fertile cow, and was a robust cow. It could deal with grazing in any kind of weather.
Yeah, just looking at your figures, your cow numbers, it was really steady as it goes. There was no, except for maybe 2008, that seemed to be a significant year of investment, and numbers went up maybe 30 cows. But other than that, it was a slow process. Are you a steady process, I should say?
Well, it was, I suppose, because we say initially quota was very hard to come by and hard to get into, and then I suppose from 2008 it freed up a lot, and I suppose I was like I was raring to go at that stage, and I bought whatever quota I had, and had a good system in place also at that stage. So like in the 2000s, by the end of 2000s we had 100 cows, and like into 2000s we built a new milking parlour. We added on more cubicle space, so we had 120 cubicles, and we had storage for all the cows. We built extra calf accommodation, so it was able to expand at that stage. So
So obviously the labour situation had to change somewhere in the middle of those years. So maybe it was 2008 onwards, but what labour units have you now, or how do you manage labour on the farm to give yourself a nice lifestyle?
Well, initially I suppose when I had a smaller number of cows, it was easy enough to manage things. And then according to I expanded, I just dropped other enterprises, so labour wasn't a problem. But yeah, you're right, Chris. From 2008 onwards, labour became an issue. Once it went over 100 cows, the labour was, no matter what contractors you got in, or no matter how efficient you were, you just needed help. So I started employing full-time people in the spring, and through the farm relief. And at the moment on the farm we have myself full-time, and then my wife and my wife Anne and family are probably equivalent to another half labour unit. And then in the spring we hire in a full-time operator from the farm relief in the spring, and I have a local farm relief, local milk milk relief man that will milk cows in the evening for me.
So that allows you to go to any of these matches that the lads are playing in, then, does it?
It does, of course. Yeah. Well, it gives you
no excuse then.
It gives you an option, because with the larger number of cows, it takes a good while to milk the cows in the morning. Because we like to pay good attention to detail milking the cows.
Yeah.
And if you're to do that morning and even, you get browned off it afterwards. So it gives you an option that you can finish up a bit early if you want, or you can go work after tea or whatever. It's your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you unload some of the work as well in terms of for contractors. I mean, there's a few aspects you use, don't you?
Yeah. Well, anything I can give to someone else, I'll give it to them. So I mean, we have good contractor service in this area. So all the big jobs are done by contractor, the slurry and the silage, and all the big jobs like that. And also I do I've a contractor here, my heifers and calves, a local farmer at Folkty, and so that's a great labour saving as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And we use technology, and we have the place set up as well as possible, to cut down, to minimise the work, and to make it more repeatable. That you can do it every year without wearing yourself out.
Wearing yourself out, yeah. You mentioned earlier about spending the time in the milking parlour. I mean, your results speak for themselves. Your total just take your total bacterial counts, average 9,000 on the year, or 7,000 a year for we judged, which is 2018 figures. What is the secret here, or what are the key steps to maintain these low bacterial counts consistently, I might add, as well, over the years?
Well, I suppose it's attention to detail, I suppose. I mean, I suppose there's not really rocket science as such. We try to keep the cows as clean as possible, on the farm, we'd say, when they're inside, we try to keep the beds well cleaned, so they're entering the milking parlour clean, and then any cow that is a bit dirty, we cleaner. And we have a good wash routine then in the parlour, and we have an auto washer, and that's a great help, I find, because it's consistent. No matter who milks the cows, it's the same wash routine. So we use plenty of hot water. That's very important as well.
So what kind of temperature are you talking? Hot wash every day, Kieran?
Yeah, hot wash every day. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
once a day or twice a day?
Twice a day. Usually.
Twice a day. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're also gone chlorine-free, I think, are you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the market seems to demand chlorine-free, so we started last year, and it's working fine so far for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, because and also your somatic cell counts are excellent. I think it's 73,000 on average for the year of the wind, and it's consistent again over the years. What are your proactive? You must be doing something to maintain that good figures.
Yeah, well, we work hard on that one, because Well, for obviously for the reasons that you don't want to be getting penalties and and all them reasons, but also to get the best potential out of a cow, she needs to be a low cell count cow, because a high cell count cow won't produce as good as as low cell count cows. And so to that end, we monitored their cell counts through the microcardon, and every morning we draw the cows once a day every morning, and any cow that did get mastitis or had mastitis, she's treated and she's taken out of the herd into a separate group. So she's milked last, and I think that's very important because you know cross-contamination. And then we pre and post spray the cows as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And also we take note of any cow that has mastitis throughout the year and keep a record of that. That's very important, valuable information as the year goes on.
Yes. So how do you value the microcarding in this whole picture then?
Well, sure, microcarding is a no-brainer. Like, if you did microcarding for no other reason, only to do the cell count, it would be money well spent.
Yes.
The report that you get after every microcarding, with the portion of the cell count in the herd, it gives the highest cell count cow and what portion she is in the herd. I mean, that's really valuable because it might be 2 or 3 cows might cause most of your problem.
Yes, lots of farmers get the microcarding sheets and they're stacked nicely in the kitchen. I mean, what's your reaction when you get your microcarding sheet? I mean, are you looking at those 4 or 5 high cell count cows? Are you chasing those straight away?
Yeah, they're the ones I'm looking at. Yeah, trying to find out, keep them, keep in control of them the whole time because for instance, one I had last year, I had the cell count spiked a bit in the crop, and we happened to do a microcarding in around the same time, and there was even though we're drawing the cows every morning and everything, there was one heifer and she was 3 million, I think,
Yes,
and she when you drew her quarters, she was fine.
Okay.
So she was causing a lot of damage. So,
yes, absolutely. So just on the dry cow therapy, what's your strategy there, or what we?
Yeah, well, we've tried to do selective dry cow therapy. I mean, we made a really bad job at it one year, really successful at doing a bad job the first year, and successful at doing a good job in the second year.
Okay, so we'd like to know the reason for the bad success the first time.
Well, sure, the first year I just didn't do it right. Simple as that. I just dried off. I was just drying off cows, and I just decided at random what cows I put them on. I didn't follow any kind of pattern as such.
Yes. So what determines your cows now for?
Well, look, at the first time, I suffered bad because of it. I lost quarters and lost cows over. So I was nervous. I made sure to do plenty of research for the second time.
Right.
So what I did last year, and it worked well, is I picked the lowest 15% in the herd, and then I went through that lowest 15%, make sure they didn't have mastitis throughout the year, and we dried them off then. And we were obviously very careful when we were drying them off and sealed them correctly and paid plenty of attention to hygiene.
And the cell count for those, was there a cut-off criteria that you used?
Yeah, we picked under 70,000.
Under 70, so under 70 and no mastitis.
No, it's very important to no mastitis throughout the year. Yeah.
So you've had no issues with those cows then when you did it right, as you say yourself?
Yeah, exactly. They did it right, and I'd be very confident to do it next year. I intend to increase the percentage next year.
Okay. Yeah. Now, just staying on the milk quality one, I mean, your fat and protein are fantastic. I think it's 3.73% protein for the year of the win. It's gone up since that, I believe, last year. Yeah, and your mixed solids, over 506 kilograms of mixed solids per cow, which is tremendous output. What's the driving force behind that kind of output? What's the secret here, or what's the? Well,
I suppose if I was to put it in 3 words, I suppose what I would think in our farm is it's the cow, the grass, and the people. So it's have the right cow. And feed her properly. In our case, we have plenty good quality grass for her, and then manage her properly, manage the whole system properly. So that that would.
They're your greetings. Yeah, and we definitely need to find out more about those 3 of those, and we will as the morning goes on. I'm going to bring actually my other 2 colleagues into Brendan and Seamus into the chat now. First of all, Brendan, if you don't mind me coming to you, why did you pick Kieran from a Glanbia point of view? I know you had actually two good candidates nominated. Why Kieran?
You've actually mentioned the reasons already. I suppose first of all, it's the consistent quality. Consistently having low bacterial counts, low cell counts, and doing it year on year. So that was the first reason, and then probably the second reason, David, would be the attention to detail. And if we just remember back to Tom's intro video, just how well kept the entrance into the farm is, from the trees, the shrubs, the sheds, and that kind of sets the theme for the attention to detail that Kieran farms throughout every aspect of how he farms.
Very good. I'll just stay on the milk quality while I have you. Kieran mentioned 2 things. One was chlorine-free. What's this chlorine-free all about? What could you explain to our audience why the importance of it now?
Yeah, so I suppose the markets that the industry is now moving into demand that we move away from chlorinated wash routines and towards chlorine-free wash routines. I suppose there's probably three main points when switching over that farmers should consider and look out for. The most important factor is the hot wash and the hot wash routine, that we have adequate hot water, as Kieran mentioned. And the key is that the wash is finishing above 50 degrees. That's the key to the hot wash routine.
Now that's a challenge, you know, on most farms now with water heaters and the quantity water. Is there any tips you can give, you know, to keep that in temperature up?
Yeah, so the first one, David, would be to preheat the plant. So to leave off a volume of cold water out of the system first, so that we can maintain our temperature higher, our wash temperature higher. And I suppose the second one then would be to look at our wash length. Farmers tend to have a habit of putting the machine washing and going off and doing a couple of other different jobs. But if we look at the temperature and shorten it down to 8 to 10 minutes, will greatly improve the dump temperature of the wash then.
Okay. So what kind of temperature, Kieran, are you using? What temperature water is your water?
Our water starts off at 70 degrees.
70 degrees, you're starting off at 70. Okay. And what were you finishing up at?
Yeah, well, our system, we have an auto washer, so it dumps out some, like Brendan said, dumps out some of the hot water, so it finished around 50, 55 degrees.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah. Okay, so you've had no issues with chlorine-free. That's the part of the message. Yeah. Okay, just on the other thing that it's of interest to the public is antimicrobial resistance and the use of antibiotics on farmers now, Brendan. So putting you on the spot, could you explain what that means? What's that all about?
Yeah,
and the significance then with Kieran's setup.
Yeah, so antimicrobial resistance is when a microorganism that causes an infection, I suppose, changes and adapts to prevent an antimicrobial from working. So I suppose the issue for the farming industry and the human health industry is that we're running out there's no new antibiotics being developed. So there's a finite number of antibiotics that we can turn to when one stops working. And this will have a big impact for human and animal health and welfare. And I suppose scientists estimate that by 2050, there could be as much as 10 million deaths related to antimicrobial related issues.
Okay. So we'll just take the importance then of Kieran doing the selective dry cow therapy. Where do you see the importance? Is that going to be something that's going to be required by everybody going down the track?
Yeah, so legislation is changing, and in January 2022, we will no longer be able to use blanket dry cow therapies. So there'll only be a select amount of antibiotics that you'll be allowed to use, basically to the ones that need it. So because of that, now we're going to have to look to move towards selective dry cow therapy. Yeah. There's probably 5 key aspects that farmers need to be doing to do selective dry cow therapy, and they're the cell check top 5. So wearing gloves, changing liners every 2,000 milkings, post-milking teat disinfection, milking machine regular maintenance, and milk recording. So the milk recording is probably the key one there. It's going to give you a profile of how each individual animal in the herd is performing, and then you could pick out the suitable cows. So the ones that need antibiotic that need to be cured over the dry period, and ones that don't need it at all.
So what advice are you actually giving? Is it in the same lines as Kieran? Is it 70,000 and no infection?
Yeah, so it's, I suppose for a farmer that's never done it before, you kind of need to set the bar pretty low.
Yeah.
Like Kieran said, a low percentage. So 70,000, no clinical case throughout the year, no bull tank above 200,000. But I suppose that the legislation is changing, but if we look at it more from a positive point of view, David, there is benefits to doing this for the farmer. So there's a potential cost saving. There's a reduced risk of residues at the shoulders of the ear, so at drying off and at calving. And the biggest one is probably an improved health status. Now, they will only be achieved if the technique is correct and we actually get good results from doing it. But there is positives to doing it.
Very good. Seamus, could I ask you then, nationally, milk recording, okay, where do we sit with that? I mean, Are we still struggling to get numbers of farmers to do that?
Yeah, very much so. Look, I suppose nationally we're just under 50% of all cows in the country being milk recorded, and just about over 40%, about 43% of the total amount of herds. So like as Kieran said, look, especially like the milk solids have increased by about 80 kilos of milk solids in the last 8 years really across the board. Cows are getting more efficient, about 22% more efficient, but definitely I think the next step that we have to move on is milk recording, because I suppose, look, a lot of farms are already gone as far as they can go cow numbers now. By milk recording, it gives massive information to somatic cell. It also gets you to breed off our best cows and maybe cull out maybe the poorer cows that haven't pulling their weight in a lot of farms.
Is there any little pointer that you could give on milk recording? You know, again, I come back to my point about a lot of milk record records are left on the table. Is there some key things if you were advising a farmer on milk recording, when he should do it, for example, and how he should interpret maybe?
Yeah. Well, look, I suppose the first thing Kieran mentioned, selective dry cow, and I suppose the one thing is, look, to see how effective the treatment was in the dry period, you had to milk record, I suppose, within the first 40 days to see how effective the dry cow treatment was. And I suppose the other one, as Kieran mentioned earlier, is the last recording coming close to actually doing his dry cow, that you can actually be more selective in the cows that you're actually treating them as well. Look, you need at least 4 milk recordings in the year. Preferably, you're talking maybe 6-8 recordings, if at all possible. Okay.
Listen, that's great, lads. Thank you for that. I'm going to move the topic on a little bit further on, because grass is a big part of this farm here, and you put a lot of emphasis on it. So, for the audience, again, maybe you'd explain a little bit how your system works and how you manage your grass and your paddock systems, and how many you have, and your allocation of grass, and maybe your fertilizer usage, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, David, the grass. I enjoyed the grass element of farming, but you know, the grass has changed a lot. You know, the way I manage grass has changed a lot since as the farm has evolved. So like when I started up, you know, earlier on, we'd say I had too much grass and not enough cows, whereas when on grazing platform, but now, you know, I have too many cows and not enough grass. So, you know, my grassland management had to improve a lot. So the first biggest obstacle I came across really was the fact that I ran down the soil indexes. You know, I was treating the land the same as what I was when I was lighter stocked, when I went up the numbers, and then that had a knock-on effect. Then they had less grass growing, so we had to rectify that. And you know, all the land now is in over 3 and in 3 index 3.
Very good.
So that's, you know, that's a very important point.
Yeah.
And so like
reseeding, is that part of your
well,
normal?
all the farm has been reseeded, you know, and I do about 10% of the farm every year. But the herd then is we allocate grass on a 24-36 hour basis, you know, because if you're giving them on 12-hour basis, you tend to, you know, you think you know how much the cow is going to eat, but you know, you probably usually get it wrong, you know.
Yes. But obviously you have some measure on this.
This
isn't all guesswork here now.
No, it's not all guesswork, no. Like, look, it was easy, we say when I was lighter stocked, it was easy to cover things over because I had cattle, and, you know, if I ran out of grass and the cows got it wrong, the cattle suffered, but the cows always had enough. But when you do go up in stock and numbers, like, you have to start measuring grass, and you have to be more on the ball with it. Yes. And like Seamus has been on in the Scotch group, and we've nearly Seamus is having to get a few grey hairs trying to get it all to start going on pasture base. But I gave it a go there 3 years ago, and like I should have been doing it sooner, like, because it gives a way better handle of what's happening on the farm.
I'll come to Seamus, and the grey hairs probably because there was no barbers working at the last time. But Seamus, look, the grass wage. I mean, this is, and we have one hopefully shown up for our audience. What is that telling us? When was this wedge taken or measured?
Okay, I think the wedge shown up there now, it was taken last Friday. I suppose the first thing is shown is Kieran's walking the farm, and he's actually taken measurements of how much grass is on each of the paddocks. So each of the bars in the graph represents a paddock for Kieran, and on the graph there is 2 lines, a red line and a blue line. And the red line is showing Kieran's demand. I suppose the first thing with the graph is last Friday, Kieran's growth on the farm was higher than the demand for the first time in a month. That was the first thing I was telling him. So Kieran was he had a lot of grass about 3 weeks ago, and probably paddocks he should have taken out, and he kept them in the system because he knew growth wasn't coming. So I suppose the red line is showing us here Kieran's demand with 3 kilos of meal in the system, and the blue line then is showing us Kieran's demand on the farm with no meal in the system. And it can be seen from the graph in a 25-day rotation. That'll probably be changed to 21 now shortly. Kieran doesn't have enough grass to cut out the meal completely. He probably is overfeeding a little bit of the 3 kilos of meal. I think the main reason was with the weather changing, grass got a bit wet and what have you. So Kieran, just to keep the cows, he's big into cow comfort, just to keep them happy, and they're milking very well as well. But I suppose the big thing is Kieran is measuring weekly. He's putting up in pasture base, and I suppose the one thing is telling him is, look, showing him at the end of the year which of his paddocks are performing, which of them are not. It's coming back to soil fertility, as Kieran was saying already, which paddocks need to be improved a little bit, which don't.
So just on the soil fertility one and the index thing, could you just briefly explain to us what those indexes mean and the importance of them?
Look, I suppose on any farm, you have several different components. I suppose the first one on any farm, I suppose Kieran's in derogation, so he's doing a nutrient management plan. The most important component on any farm is probably lime. I suppose when you go into a shop, you see some of these offers, buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
Lime, when you buy lime, you get free nitrogen and free phosphorus with it because it releases it naturally from the ground.
Yeah.
Like if you get the lime right, you get the equivalent of 2 bags of can per year free for every acre, or 1.5 bags of protected urea.
Okay.
It also releases phosphorus naturally in the ground as well. I suppose the point Kieran is making, the optimum is to get the soil index up to index 3 for P and for K, and have the lime requirements right on the farm. That'll grow you more grass, which in turn will feed the cows more adequately through the year. Kieran needs to feed less meal, and the winter is a little bit shorter. Right. So it's a positive from the environment from all aspects.
Okay, Kieran, could I just ask you on the fertilizer usage and what type of fertilizer are you using?
Yeah, we now that we have the soil up to now up to the index 3s, we have a fertilizer plan in place. So we just aim the P and Ks at the fields that need it most. So we spread all our slurry mainly on the silage ground, and we use a drill bar, and we spread slurry out then on the fields at home that need a boost up, and we go earlier in the year then with a compound, just to make sure we have plenty P and K in there for the grassy year ahead, and for the rest of the year then we use protected urea.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So Seamus, kind of bounce back to you again about the protected urea. What's this about, and how important is it now going forward?
Yeah, look, I suppose we're all under obligations to try and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions at this stage. So look, I suppose to put into simple terms, about 1/3 of all nitrogen sprayed on farms in Ireland is sprayed in a can format, so a straight nitrogen format. And to put into context, if we could move half that can to protected urea across the whole country, it would be the equivalent of wiping out the greenhouse gas emissions of 100,000 cows. Now, to put into context, there's 85,000 milking cows in Waterford, there's 18,000 suckler cows. So if we could move half the can, which is 1/6 of all the nitrogen spread on the country, to protected urea, which is every bit as effective as can, it's also a little bit cheaper. So it's a win-win for the farmer and the environment. It's the same as wiping out the equivalent of the greenhouse gas emissions of 100,000 cows.
Wow, it's not a lot. Yeah. I know, I'm conscious of time now of from the environment point of view, that you have a real interest and passion for the environment. Could you tell us just some of the things that you're doing and you've done in the past to protect the environment? A lot of farmers I know from the visiting on the awards, they consider themselves as caretakers of the environment. Yeah. For the next generation. Are you one of those?
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, we live and work on the farm, so I mean, obviously, you want to keep this nice. You take pride in your farm, so. We do, like, obviously we have enough storage in place that, there are all the big things we've done, all that, and, we started using the dribble bar. There was a discussion group meeting last year, and Cathal Stommer spoke at it there, and he explained a few small things that had big impacts that we could do for the environment. So one of them was the protected urea, and the other was spreading slurry with the dribble bar. Yes. So we're doing all that.
And you have done hedge groves as well.
Yeah, and then
biodiversity.
And I mean, when we were developing the farm, we tried to leave the hedgerows in place as much as possible, and we protect all our hedgerows. We have electric wire along them so that they won't get knocked down by animals, and we leave the young tree saplings grow as well. And then when we developed the farm, we put trees around parts of it just to screen it, for the farmyard, And then I was part of a rep scheme in the early 2000s, and part of that was to plant a hawthorn hedge, and I planted across the road. It was a very cold part of the farm, and it's been a great success and something I'm very proud of. It's a beautiful ditch.
And you've left in the hedge grove, you've left species, a range of species grow.
We try to use species that are kind of native to the area, because they fit better in with the ecosystem.
I think we have introduced a little video of yours, a 40-second clip that kind of demonstrates what you've been doing or your views on it.
Yeah, this is the ditch we planted in the rep scheme.
On the rep scheme, okay, very good.
It's great. Yeah. Small changes on the farm can have a big impact on the environment. And I planted a nice hawthorn hedge, about 300 meters long. And you see birds nesting in it, and you see the hawthorn berries on it. And birds can live off the berries in the winter. They nest in it, because it's a good, thick, dense hedge. It doesn't impose on the environment. It's a kind of native breed, so it's there, fits in with the ecosystem. And it's, it's something really I'm proud of now. It's very important to take care of the land around you. At the end of the day, we're only on the farm for one generation, so we have to try and leave it in a decent state for the next generation.
Okay, we're back again, and I'm going to jump over to Seamus for 1 second, and you can come back to me again, Kieran. What I'm going to ask you, Kieran, is Seamus, is Kieran unique in this? Are other farmers, thinking the same way, or is this guy, on his own here?
Yeah. Look, I suppose what Kieran is doing here, there's nothing of the individual things Kieran is doing is unique. It's probably the fact he's doing them all on the one farm is unique. Like to summarize, there's 7 steps to sustainable environmental for environmental sustainability on farms. I suppose step 1 is good high EBI cows with long extended rotations of grass. Kieran is one in the top 1% for EBI in the country. His cows are 20% more efficient than the average cow, and he's getting about 290 days of grass. Step 2, he's incorporating clover into a lot of his grassland around the farm. Step 3, he's spreading his slurry with low emission slurry spreading. Step 4, he's using protected urea to reduce his greenhouse gas emissions. Step 5, he's trying to be more energy efficient. So in the shed, for example, it's all LED lights to reduce the amount of energy used. The water company take coolers recycle back to clean the collecting yard. Step 4 is he's planting extra trees and hedgerows around the farm. And step 5, he's part of the agricultural sustainability support and advisory program. And that's what he mentioned with cotton summers coming out for water protection. So I suppose a lot of farms are doing 3 or 4 of those elements, but what makes Kieran unique is he's doing all 7 steps at the one time on the one farm.
Okay. We have to, again, conscious of time, we have to move on, because we really have a big element here, and that's the your breeding program. Your herd's one of the top 1% in the country for EBI, and you have a lot of bulls bred on this farm that are top of the league at the minute, called after your family. A lot of them. One of them is Fiona, I think.
Fiona, named after my daughter.
After your daughter, and another one is after some Liverpool player, Salah, I think.
My son is a Liverpool fan, so he named the car Salah.
Exactly, very good. But before we get your details, maybe I just ask you, Seamus, sorry, very briefly, the EBI and the value of EBI before we dig into.
I suppose the EBI, or Economic Breeding Index, look, it's made up of about a third kind of from milk production. So it's milk kilos, fat, and protein. It's made up of a third fertility, which is calving interval survivability. And it's made up of a third then for other traits such as calving, beef, maintenance, and management, and the beef index then as well, those type of traits. Kieran's herd is in the top 10% in the country for the milk sub-index for EBI, and it's in the top 1% for fertility sub-index for EBI. So Kieran's herd is particularly strong in the fertility aspect of it, and his herd goes under the Curragh is actually what his herd goes under, and he has one bull named after Mo Salah for the weakness in it for all Liverpool supporters.
There you go. Okay, so just, I suppose you can give us the reason for that, but also I suppose briefly your breeding policy, your weeks of breeding, how much AI you're using.
Well, breeding is something I was always interested in, and I think it's very, you need to have a cow that suits your system, not, so that's something I was always passionate about. And so we when we're picking our bulls, we use genomic bulls anyway. So we use a team of genomic bulls, and we don't pick any, individual bulls as such. We combine their figures into one bull, as if there's one bull being used over the herd. And we do that. And last year, for instance, the combined EBI of them was 309. Yes. And so we try pick bulls then that will complement herd EBI. And of the last few years now, we're putting a bit more emphasis on the health aspect of it too, because again, because of the likes of the antibiotic resistance and things like that, you need to be improving the cows that way.
So what is the EBI of your calves, for example, for this year now?
270, I think.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Okay, so from looking at your notes, you use a lot of Frisian.
Yeah, and all the herd is done with Frisian. And probably about 95% are done with AI, and about 5% then with Frisian stock bull.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're breeding season we do 3 weeks of AI, and then we do 9 weeks of AI, 3 cycles, and 3 weeks of bull cleanup, so 12 weeks in total. And last year, 91% of the cows calved in 6 weeks. So, its fertility is very important, especially in a spring calving scenario. and especially get the most out of the cows.
So your attention to details regards picking these bulls is, I'd say, it's you go through like a fine tooth comb to establish what bulls your choice.
Well, I do to a degree. Like, you know, I mean, I not necessarily pick the highest bulls on the list, you know, but I try to pick bulls that with traits alike or with good family backgrounds, as well as picking them on the EBI. And then when I do pick the bulls, I put it into the ICBF fertility tool, and that allocates then all the bulls to the cows. You know, so that gives you a choice of 3 choices for every cow. You know, and so it's up to Mother Nature after that. Then.
After there, yeah. I'm going to drop just a minute. I think we've a few questions coming in from the outer audience, and Tom is going to give us one hour.
Thanks, David. Just to let you know that this broadcast has gone international today, because our question relating to breeding is from Wales, from a farmer called Rhys Davis, who says that he visited the farm a number of years ago, and he'd just like Kieran to comment on the number of older cows that are in your herd. He said when he visited the farm, there was a number of 10+ lactation cows in the herd, and he felt that was quite unusual. And would you just comment on that, because it's obviously related to your herd fertility?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like long-living cows, you know, and even when I'm picking bulls, I tend to go back and look at their family, and if they're out of a cow that lives, you know, that's 5, 6, 7 lactations, that's a real bonus for me, you know. And if their granddam is the same, you know, because at the end of the day, she's a fertile cow, you know, she's doing the job every year, and she's, you know, she's obviously causing no problems, so she's there in the herd. So I would think that's one of my key picking points, really, in picking a cow. Yeah.
Okay, you okay, Tom? Very good. Okay, so on the breeding thing, I'll just ask you, Seamus. Kieran is doing 15 bulls, I think, with a choice of 15 bulls. Do you think that's a good idea, that you have so many, such a wide range, or is that advice you would be giving to somebody?
Yeah, look, I suppose a lot of bulls Kieran would use would be genomic bulls. So I suppose any herd using genomic bulls, you have to use at least 7. That's even for a herd of 50 cows, because some of these bulls will go up in index over the years, some will go down. So to bring up the reliability, you have to use at least 7. When you get into Kieran's herd size, kind of 250 cow territory, you need to be heading for 10, 11, 12 genomic bulls to take that reliability, to bring it up further for Kieran. And I think in Kieran's case, he's using 15 bulls is what he's using across the team of bulls this year. So that's important. And I suppose the other aspect as well, look, for farmers using AI, look, I suppose the first thing is try and maintain the positives in the herd. So if you have a good fertile herd, maintain the positivity and the fertility, try and maybe increase on the milk side of things. And if you have a herd maybe with good on milk and needs a bit more fertility, maintain the milk and try and improve the fertility side. And Kieran's EBI here, roughly it's weighted around 2 to 1. It's about 99 for EBI on the fertility, and about 55 for milk.
Very good. Listen, obviously staying with that whole breeding thing, the young stock are important to the herd, I take it.
Yeah, well, they're the most important animal on the farm, you know, and they're often sidelined, David, in an expansion situation anyway.
So would you just give us an idea how you manage them, I suppose, or how you rear your calves, and how the...
Well, there's a shed we're in here now is my calving area, and there's cubicles along down behind us there. And any cows that are near calf are in there, are put in there. And when I think they're going to calf, I put them into this pen. Their calves are born here, and they get 3 litres of beestons straight away. And I aim to get 5 litres into them in the first 24 hours. And then when they're taken away from the mother, then they move into the calf house, which is over there. And I have an automatic calf feeder. I have 2 automatic calf feeders, but one of them is it can feed milk as well, a combi feeder. So when we milk all the fresh milk, we have a bulk tank in that shed, and all the fresh milk goes into that. So when the calf goes up to the other house, he goes into a training pen, and the first milk he gets then is from the fresh milk in the bulk tank, and he stays in that for maybe, depending on how much fresh milk is available, but usually for about a fortnight, and then he moves on to milk replacer. So they're on the feeder then for about 70 days. They're set to be on 70 days, but a calf isn't. We can extend that if we need to, if they're not performing as well. And they have ab-lib access to meal and ab-lib access to clean straw. And then when they're weaned, then they're put to grass straight away, and we move them out then to over to contract free or Eddie Folk to there, and he looks after them for the summer period, and we bring them back then for we winter them here on the farm here.
Yeah, I know from you actually can transfer some of the milk from the parlour to the calf house. Is it underground or pipes?
It's underground. We've set up
it's interesting.
My hands were dragged from carrying buckets over the years.
It's making it more enjoyable.
When we built the calf house, we decided to put in 2 pipes under the ground. So I have a loop system so that I can connect on the dump line in the milking parlour onto it. So when I dump a cow, the milk ends up inside in the bulk tank in the calf house, and then if I want to wash it, then I can close the loop and wash it with the milking machine. So it works very well.
Works very well. Yes, it's an ingenious thing. Yeah, and just on the calf rearing, I mean, you're not rearing all the bulls, or are you? I mean, what's happening to all the stock? I mean,
we reared all the calves, this year, and it's really like they're all put onto the automatic calf feeder, but I don't have any responsibilities. Anne and the children basically train them all on the calf feeder. That's the advantage of the auto feeder, that there's a time in training them, but it's not physically hard work. So they train them all onto the calf feeder. So all the heifer calves are reared. Everything is reared anyway. Everything, and all the I sell some of the heifer calves then as reared calves to farmers, and then the bull calf I keep some breeding bulls for myself, so they're kept, and then the rest of the bull calves this year were sold to a local beef farmer. He bought them off me reared, So.
Okay, so you actually even the beef calves, you actually rear them. You have them reared when you leave there. I'd love to find those calves off you when you've reared and all. That's the
farmer that bought them approached me during the spring, and I built a new calf house this year, so I had a bit of extra capacity. And he had a young family, and he needed, it was taking him too long to rear calves himself. He had other commitments, so when they were weaned, he took them away. So
okay,
a win-win for me and him.
So what's your view on the contract rearing aspect? I mean, I know you can't say too much about the farmer now, but I mean, obviously you've trust. There's a trust thing in you, and he does a good job. And
well, the contract rearing started out first primarily because they couldn't get land, and I was a bit tight on buildings, and but now, if I just wouldn't do it any other way now, So it saves an awful lot of work. The animals are wintered here on the farm, all right, but they're out on his farm for the summer, and it's two grouped animals that I don't have to worry about for the summer.
So it's a labour saving as well.
Eddie is as a dairy farmer himself in the past.
Yes.
So he understands
they're the best guys at contract rearers.
Yeah. I mean,
ex-dairy farmers.
They understand how dairying works, and they understand the importance of getting to the proper size, and how to look after calves and the whole lot. So it's very. You're using someone else's skill, basically.
As well, yeah. I'm going to hold there a second, because Tom is back in with some more questions, so we'll take those.
Okay, thanks, David. I just remind our viewers this morning that they can ask questions through the Q&A function on Zoom. So there's some questions coming in, but we have probably about 10 minutes between now and the end of the broadcast where we'll take questions. So one of the questions that's come in is for Kieran in relation to milk recording. Somebody has commented that, oftentimes people say, there's an awful lot of hassle associated with milk recording. How would you respond to that? There's maybe 6 times in the year when you have to milk record. So is there extra hassle?
There is a small little bit of extra work involved in it, obviously, but I mean the work is worth the benefits are worth it, So, so I wouldn't.
Okay.
You just hire if it was going to be taking you more time, you could just hire in someone to give you a hand or whatever. It's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brendan, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just I suppose as Kieran said, there is extra work, but it's only for a minimal amount of milkings throughout the whole year. But the amount of information you're getting out of it is massive. The information you're getting on individual cows from a cell count performance and fat and protein and solids performance is so invaluable to farmers. It makes a massive difference. One of Kieran's strongest points is breeding. Without that information, it makes a massive difference to which cows Kieran can breed the best bulls onto. So the information you get versus the time, I suppose, for those small percentage of milkings, there's no comparison.
I mean, all your decisions are made, with a lot of your milk recording records and grass measurements. So its measurements are dictating a lot of the things
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you don't measure, sure, how can you, how do you know how you're getting on? I mean, I was looking back on an old milk carton summary sheet that I had there in 2003, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they had total milk solids, per cow was 470. And last year the total milk solids was 570.
Yes.
I mean,
470 is still good.
Yeah. So you make progress by measuring. If you weren't measuring, you wouldn't be picking your best cows. You wouldn't know what your best cow is.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Tom, you've some more questions?
Yeah, a few more questions coming in. Just on the selective dry cow therapy, a viewer asked, what are your plans for this autumn? I think you probably mentioned it. You're looking maybe to expand the numbers.
Yeah,
dried off without antibiotics, but could you explain a bit more?
Yeah, like I said, I suppose I had a bad experience at the beginning. So, and last year when it was a great success, I mean, I intend to continue doing it because, it's it's part of our moral duty really to do it. I mean, if antibiotics are getting scarce, if it's going to start affecting people,
Okay. And for Brendan, maybe, the percentage or maybe the number of Glanbia suppliers that that are already gone chlorine-free, and maybe the number left to make the switch. Obviously Kieran has made the switch.
So especially in this area, we would have moved, gradually started moving chlorine-free in the last 18 months or so. But all Glanbia suppliers would have switched to chlorine-free in April. So I suppose the transition is the difficult part. But once you follow the three main aspects of the hot water, the approved product, and the correct routine, it will work.
Okay, there's a question in as well for Kieran in relation maybe future plans for further development of the farm. Earlier in the broadcast, you've very well told the story of growing the herd from 28 cows to 200 cows.
Yeah.
What, next 5 to 10 years, what's in your mind?
Well, sure, I suppose I'd like to consolidate what I have really, I suppose, first, and pay down a few loans maybe. And I've done a lot of development, so I mean the milking platform is at its limit now, so I suppose I'm kind of at a crossroads, so I just just see what happens. Not being clever by answering like that, but that's the truth, so yeah, I'd see if some of the family are interested in, if not,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, and another question came in relation to the use of beef AI. From your earlier discussion with David on the beef calves, it appears that you have a number of customers for your calves, so you must be doing something right in terms of generating product that they're interested in buying.
Well, they're all free. I use all Frisian AI, so there's no actual beef calves as such. But I suppose there's a market there for a calf reared. I mean, it's a skill to rear calves. And some people, if you're working or whatever and family commitments, you just mightn't have the time. And it would be nice just get them landed into your yard, no problems. Unless there's a market there. It's a pity to see them all being exported as such. So, yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, something just came to mind. I remember when we visited here, you had done some development with water around the farm. Yeah. You weren't happy with the quantities of water your animals were getting, because you're obviously very interested in welfare of these animals.
Yeah.
Can you explain what you did, what that system was?
Yeah, we did a big job on the water there last year, because again, look, it's something, when you expand, all little kind of problems occur as you go along. So the one problem was we didn't have enough water. And the problem was really we have a good supply of well on the farm. Good, there's a good supply in that, but there was one pump was trying to do everything. So so we built a buffer tank basically, and the well pump pumps the water into that in the night time, and also whatever surplus water from the play cooler goes into that. And then during the day, when there's another pump in that, so that pumps that water out to the farm, and the well pump then is just there for the house and for the milking parlour. So there's no pressure on any of the two pumps.
So it is how you react. You had a problem and you fixed it, and
for the better. You have to sort it out.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You have to.
And do you save rainwater? Is that something that you?
We haven't got around that, but we have it set up that we can do that as well.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Seamus, could I ask you? Tom, you have a question. You go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks, David. For Brendan, and maybe Kieran might want to comment as well. But I suppose the discussion there about chlorine-free. And there's an extra hot water, a lot of hot water required, and that maybe leads people to thinking about the cost, the electrical cost of it. What's your experience dealing with your suppliers? Are many maybe looking at the solar option, or are there other options to reduce the cost of the extra water heating?
Yeah, so I suppose electrical heating is expensive, if we're not using nitrate electricity. And because there's maybe a higher demand now, there's more hot water required in the new routines. Some people would have put in electrical heaters, and the parlours now after expanding, so the electrical heater isn't even getting enough water out. So there's kind of three other options to look at. There's the solar option that you mentioned. I suppose that's probably in its infancy, where you combine solar panels with electric water heaters. The other two options then are oil burners or gas. I suppose the advantage there is that you've instant hot water, cheaper to run, more expensive to install, but cheaper to run.
Okay, and can I come back to Kieran? What is the system here in this farm for heating water?
Well, we use night rate electricity with a electric heater, and it's probably, we're probably lucky the way the bulk tank comes. It comes in the night time, so it gives the chance for the tank to reheat. So it's probably an area that I'll probably have to look at in the future to have enough hot water for both.
As a further comment to that, I think it's important that people remember that when you actually use hot water, you're using about half the level of detergent that you require as compared to cold water. So when people are doing their costings, they should account for that when they're doing it. Yeah. Are you okay, Tom, with questions? Okay, very good. If I was to ask you, Seamus, to summarize this farm in a nutshell, the key components of it, and what makes it a really sustainable farm, what would you?
I'd say the big thing that's kind of come across with the conversation with Kieran is, look, it's very much data driven. Kieran is very much into detail. He does all aspects of the farm very well, and he does breeding exceptionally well. And I suppose the other one then as well, he's a very simple system going here. So he tries to, any work he can outsource, he does outsource. And like Kieran is big into farmer sustainability. Of all the sustainabilities, the farmer is the most important part, and the farmer has to be sustainable. And I suppose like Kieran's aim always is, I'm working with Kieran 20 years. I suppose when I first started here, his aim was 100 cows, and everything was geared towards 100 cows. And I suppose that's when you really felt that the labour had to come in once you went beyond that point. And since that, Kieran has gone on to double herd. But I suppose the three big details is data, detail, and simplification. They're the three words I'd probably use in the farm.
Very good. Brendan, I suppose from a Glanbia point of view, I mean, he's a great advertisement for producing quality milk. Just walk around the farm here and you see that. I presume so. He's the ideal candidate. You like all your farmers to be like Kieran.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's no aspect that Kieran is poor at.
Yes.
All the different aspects, he's right up there at the top.
Yeah. So Kieran, if you were to summarize yourself, then you simplify your system. I'll let you answer that. What way would you summarize your setup overall?
Well, I suppose first of all, I'd like to make comment is the people around you. It's a team, a team of people around you. So I mean, you can't. No farmer on their own. So I get to support my wife, and then you have like Seamus, and you have all the people that help you along the way. So, but my system would be simply really cows, grass, and people. You can summarize it in them three words for you. I mean, you need a proper cow for your system. And then you need to look after her correctly and feed her correctly.
Yes.
And then you have to manage things. You have to look after her and manage the whole farm properly. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Well done. One last question from Tom.
One very brief question. Yeah. I think you've touched on it in your last answer, actually, Kieran. But just a question has come in: if you were to fall down ill, could the system keep going in your absence?
Well, I'd hope so. Yeah, they probably be able to complain, but I suppose. Yeah. Like I have a relief milker that comes in every evening, so he knows the run of the place. So he probably could double up if he had to, or he could show someone else what to do. And all the family are, they milk in the morning with me. With the COVID-19, they come down and help me in the morning, so they know how to work things as well. So they probably could manage on there. Everyone is irreplaceable, I suppose.
And I suppose on that point too, maybe just to cut in, I suppose, look, the one thing on dairy farms, if you need labour during the busy time, you probably have to have labour when you don't really need them during the year. In your case, Kieran, like you have labour coming in all through the year to have them there when you need them in the springtime.
Okay, listen, I must go to close, right? There's a fact sheet on the Teagasc webpage for information on more details on the farm than we covered here today. I'd like to thank Kieran and his family for hosting us. In the calving shed. It was a lovely experience, and for my two colleagues here for participating and sharing their knowledge with it, and for you, the audience, for staying with us as well. It's been great, and for your questions. You can follow us for the remainder of the day on Teagasc Instagram and on Twitter, hashtag virtual milk walk, I gather. So thank you very much for staying with us, and I hope you learned from the experience like we did. Thank you.